Hello, I'm Dr. Denita with the Moments on Waiting talk show. This show is about encouraging people on how to be more prepared, productive, and wise during their waiting experience. Each week, we will focus on different topics from my book, While I Wait, that will give solutions to the waiting journey. Today's topic is recognizing the right one. Now, so many people want to find the right one, but they have to learn how to be the right one. And we have a special and powerful guest today who will just show us how to be the right one. So let's welcome to our show today, Pastor Terrell Munger with One Accord Ministries.
I'm excited to be here, and this is a topic that I love, so just get ready.
I know. So first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself and your ministry.
Okay. Well, my ministry is a relatively young one. I've been pastoring now for 4 years. We started it from scratch, One Accord Ministries. Of course, I was the pastor of another church before that, but the direction for me is for young people. So I had to branch out with some people that had the same heart as me, and we birthed One Accord, and it's been very successful, over the years. So.
And how long has it been in existence?
It's been 4 years. It's been 4 years, and a lot of things we do are outside of what happens on Sundays, and that's what birthed my book, Something She Can Feel, that deals with the emotional needs of women, and also it birthed the play that we're doing, Something She Can Feel, which we did in February, 2 straight sold-out performances. People still talking about it, so we're doing it again at the Lander Center so we can have more space, May 16th. So.
I saw it. It was excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
Now tell people more about the book, because it's going to lead us into our topic today. Okay.
Well, the book it really deals with the emotional needs of women. And I think we would be doing ourselves an injustice, especially as a woman, if you don't admit that your emotional needs are different than men. Men, for the most part, it's not a cookie cutter thing, are more logic. They think, they feel progress by accomplishing, by doing things and making progress. But in the book, it highlights how women need to feel various emotions to be fulfilled in life. That's why they like soap operas. That's why they like Lifetime. That's why they like Oprah, because they want to experience various emotions. That's why the conversation is different when it comes to women. They'll talk about all the things that are going on. They'll laugh together. They'll cry together. It's an emotional journey that they need. Well, there are guys who understand that, and they use those emotional needs that women have to lock them in an unhealthy relationship. And I've even heard women say things like, I don't even know what I see in him. It's not about the man, it's about the emotional journey he takes her on. So I highlight in the book that God made it that way because it's supposed to be towards the man of vision, where she can experience his ups, his downs, his highs, his lows. And even if he wants to stop, she won't let him, because she needs that journey that they're on. That's why women are impressed with people like Barack Obama, people who are experiencing things where they can experience it with them. But if a guy is just a good guy who goes to work, who has no vision and no journey in his life, the woman will look at him and say, he's too nice, because he's boring to her, because she only gets to experience one emotion. And so and I go into detail about it in the book. So.
And really, this is kind of jump-starting some of my questions, because I wanted to ask you about a helpmeet, but that's probably how a woman is conditioned. We are conditioned to be a helpmeet.
Absolutely.
So if a guy is boring, how can we help him if he doesn't have a mission or purpose?
Absolutely.
They have to have somewhere to go with that man.
Correct. And a man that is not doing anything, the woman could love him, but it will frustrate her, because she's saying, give me something to follow. It's impossible to follow a parked car. I don't care how pretty the car is, I don't care how much gas you have in it, I don't care how luxurious it is, but they cannot follow what is standing still. So the man has to present a vision or a journey that he can take her on for her to emotionally engage in it. Well, the players get this, so they give her the journey even if it's a lie. Even if it's a lie, they'll tell her, well, baby, I'm going to do this, and next year we're going to do this, and we're going to take this trip. And she's excited about the journey, even if it never happens. Because there's always that carrot dangling in front of her for something to look forward to. And so that's how the bad boys end up attracting the good girls, and the good girls get lost in looking for the bad boys.
Look at you.
Yeah.
So did you do research on this, or how did you know from your own life experiences? How did you find out about all this?
Well, it is from my own life experiences. I'm not ashamed to say that my father was an actual pimp, like the real pimp with 10 women living in the house, the big green Cadillac with the sunroof top and all of that. And when he was in prison in my younger days, I mean, he was my hero because everybody talked about, oh, your daddy was cold. He was rich. He had this. And so I was enamored. I was excited about this man. And even from prison, he would call and read books like Iceberg Slim to me, you know, and things like that. And he sold me this vision of when he get out of jail, what we were going to do together and, you know, what we were going to become. Well, when he got out of jail, I never saw him. He was with his other family on the other side of town. And when I finally went to live with him, it's because his son wanted me to, but he still never spent time with me. And for some reason at my age, I understood that he sold me a dream. Then I thought about it, is that what he did to my mama? Is that why she ended up, you know, having a nervous breakdown and going in a mental institution for a year? And I started to think about this thing. As much as I love this man, he's not a good man. Then I thought about it, how are women constantly falling for this? So as I got a little older and I started seeing that the good girls seem to always want the bad boys, it made me curious. It almost made me kind of resent attractive women for a while because I was like, this is ridiculous, you know. Because of your looks, you manipulate people to get what you want. But as I got older, I started to understand that some of these behaviors that they pick up were learned behaviors. So about 5 years ago, I ended up doing research for a year for my book. It was actually after I met my wife. And I was trying to explain to her why it's important if people want to be serious in a relationship, they have to date exclusively. Because if a man is not exclusively with one woman, he can't emotionally engage. He can't date 2 or 3 women and commit to one. Because when this one starts acting crazy, he'll go talk to this one. Or when he considers this one is not acting right, he'll go to this one. And he'll keep, you know, adding and removing the people in it because he can't emotionally engage into one. And so after my wife and I had that conversation, I spent a year interviewing women, whether it was at restaurants, whether it was in the break room at work, whether it was at church, and I would just ask them questions about how they think. And I always ask the question, why is it that good girls like bad boys? And all of them had the same thing. It's a sense of adventure. They feel safe. They feel secure. And my mind started telling me, how can you feel secure about a guy that lies to you and cheats on you? Well, it's not the security. It's the emotional journey that she goes on. And every time she comes to him, only he can fix the problem. Only he can make her feel safe again. Only he can make her feel like she's loved again because she can't receive anything from anybody else because she's emotionally engaged into him. And so after doing all the research, I put it in an easy to read book called Something She Can Feel. And even in the highlights, I say what every man needs to, what every woman needs to know, and what every man needs to know, and what every woman needs to understand. Because women go through it, but they don't understand how they keep falling for the same type of guy. So, yeah.
Well, how did you meet your wife?
Okay. Well, I met my wife. It was at a point in life I was ready to be serious, and I knew that I wanted a wife. So all of the women that I was dealing with, I cut it off completely. Because I knew that if the woman who was meant for me came into my life, I would probably miss her because I was emotionally engaged in other women. So I just knew the time was coming. I didn't know, no angel sat on my bed. Okay. I just knew that it was time for me to make that step because I wasn't a pastor yet. Okay. But I was so deeply involved in ministry, I didn't want to do things that were unbecoming of someone that was involved in ministry. So, and at my sister's birthday party, this young lady was there. And when I saw her, she was absolutely beautiful. And I said, I am staying away from her. You know, and come to find out, she knew my sister, and she happened to ask about me. And so when my sister told me about it, I said, no, I cannot deal with her because that's trouble waiting to happen. And so my sister kept calling me. She said, well, at least give her a call. So I finally gave her a call, and we talked on the phone for about 4 hours, and it was a very interesting conversation. And the more we talked, I said, you know what, this woman is something good to have in your life. And on the first date, we went on a date a week later, and I sat down and I looked at her and I said, I'm gonna marry that woman. You know, I didn't say it to her because I didn't want to scare her off, but I knew that she was the one.
So did God tell you that, or what about lists? Did you have like a list of requirements that you really wanted in a helpmeet?
Well, I had a list,
Okay.
but she didn't fit anything on the list.
What?
She didn't. She didn't. But what I saw in her was shattered all of my lists. I was ready to give love. She was ready to receive love.
Okay.
I was ready to learn life. She was ready to learn with me. My dreams excited her. It engaged her. And she was deeply involved into what it is that I wanted to do. And I realized I'd made the wrong list. Because finding the right one, if there's such a thing, if I don't like to use that word, because thinking there's a right one, when you go through a problem, you start thinking you picked the wrong one. You know, and so the right one is not so much about good or bad. It is about what's beneficial. I think about a scripture that says everything is lawful, but not everything is beneficial. So you have to find somebody that's beneficial to your life. Your helper must benefit the goal of the dream. And if you don't have a dream, if you don't have a vision, sometimes you can get somebody, and then when you realize what your vision is, you find out that person doesn't go with the vision. So I would recommend that anybody find their purpose before they find their partner.
That's right.
Because you can pick a partner that end up not going with the purpose, and you think you're mad at her, but what you're really looking at it doesn't go with the vision that you have.
Right. And then you have to know yourself.
Right.
Like I say that in my book, a lot of times women want the glamorous type of man. They might want the football player, the celebrity, but that is a great purpose. Everybody's not called to that, because just if you don't like being by yourself because the person's gone all the time, you know you're a jealous type person, because that person's going to have to talk to women, be around good and bad, groupies. That's not the calling for you, because you're going to be worried and upset and can't live your life worrying about what he's doing. So once you realize your calling and what you like, you know, if you're good at being by yourself, you can marry a truck driver, because he's going to be on the road. So that's what they have to do. First, know themselves. And a famous comedian one time told me about the list. I always believed in lists because as a business person, I believe in business plans, and Habakkuk saying writing a vision down, making it plain. He said, but you need to make a reasonable list. Sometimes the Cinderella syndrome, we don't make a reasonable list. He said make 10 things that are reasonable. He said, now if you get 9 of those things, they're not, that person's not the one. And I said, why? He said, because God gives you the desires of your heart. So I went back and changed the list to reasonable things and scriptural things, because I know that God's word does not come back void. So when I started lining up my list with God's way of thinking, then I saw change in my life. I saw those type of people coming into my life.
Absolutely.
And that's what we have to be so in tune on what God would have for us. So that brings me to perfect and permissive will. Sometimes people can live happily ever after in the permissive will. But what about the perfect will?
Well, I would say even to that, how we look at the list, I don't think that I was my wife's type. She didn't like me with glasses, you know. I was very serious because I knew where I was going in life. And I'll never forget, one day we were talking on the phone, and she said, because I'm always talking about what I'm about to do, you know, things that God has shown me. And I was just always passionate about the next step in life. And one day she says, can we just sometimes talk about nothing? Can we just have a conversation that excludes where you're going and what you're doing? And so at that moment, I realized she's giving me the opportunity to rest my mind. You know, so she became my place of rest, where I didn't have to talk about the next step, and I didn't have to talk about the next goal or the next step in life, where she can give me that mental vacation that I needed to not talk about anything or be involved in anything and just rest. So she became my place of rest. So sometimes the permissive will is what God allows you to do, because you know, grace covers us. Grace covers us in so many ways. But the perfect will, we never, Eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, neither has it entered into the heart of man what God has prepared for us. But the Bible says, but he's revealed it to us by his spirit. His perfect will is based upon your spirit being in line with his.
Right.
I've had men and women say, God said you're my husband. No, you just felt that. So,
Right,
you know,
right.
I mean, we always change our mind about what God said.
Right.
God told me to do this.
Right.
God told me to do that. Sometimes that is what you want to do, and he allows it to happen, but you got to keep your mind open. That's why he tells us to become as babes. You don't know your next step. It has not yet been made known what we shall become. But when he appears, we know that we will be like him. Sometimes he just appears. When I met my wife, I felt like the presence of God just appeared. I never would have picked that type of woman. But his perfect will appeared in that moment. Now, if I wasn't in a place where I had already cut off communication with other women and things like that, I probably would have denied that perfect will because I had some permissive stuff going on. I was dealing with different women, a lot of women, and his permissive will didn't expose me. It didn't show that you seem like a good guy, but why are you dating 3 women? It didn't expose me. Oh, everybody, Terrell is a good guy. Well, Terrell dating 3 women and you don't know about it. But he was allowing me the grace. I believe what God's grace is time to get it right. It's kind of like the MLG&W grace period. The bill is due, you didn't pay it, but you still have time to pay it before the lights get turned off. I think God's grace is time for us to get it right, but it's not meant for us to keep living like that or our lights get turned off and we get exposed for who we really are. But I think his perfect will, you can't know it today, what his perfect will is 10 years from now. You just got to keep your eyes open and stay in touch with him, and he reveals it in that moment.
And sometimes the perfect will take you outside your box.
Absolutely.
Because he might say you have to move to New York for this job. And you might love your family in Memphis. But if you didn't move to New York, that person from Africa would not have moved to New York. You would have never met that person. So I'm very open. And I know God is a God of love. So you have to ask him specifically. Because he might send you just that box type of thing, but if the one that's going to love you or he has for you might be a shorter person, might be a person of another race, so he gives you what you want. You might say, God will send me a tall person of another race, but be more specific. And if you're really looking at the word, he is so specific. If you look at Psalms 112, it tells you exactly what type of man he would have you to have. Then Proverbs 31 tells you about what? The woman. So they are very comparable. So tell us about the Psalms 112 man and then the Proverbs 31 woman.
Well, I can say with me, of course it's different for everybody, but it's significant that the scripture tells us that the spirit within us cries out with moans and groans that we cannot utter. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I wouldn't have known to pray for the type of wife that I had. I didn't have sense enough. So spiritually, I was crying out for something that I didn't know I needed. I never would have prayed for being a pastor of the type of church that I'm a part of. But my spirit was crying out in such a way that he led me to it. Most of the things that I have in my life that brings me absolute joy, I wouldn't have even known to pray for. So what I would say to anybody is that prayer should be more of, God, lead me to your will. You know, because it's some specific things that I pray for that end up being the biggest headaches in my life, because sometimes and I think a lot of people do this, we don't know what we want.
See, now the older I get, I know what I want and don't want. I think younger, you make bad decisions in relationships because you don't know what you want. Now, when I first see that red flag, and we don't talk about that, I dismiss it. He could be fine, he could be whatever, but if that's a red flag or a deal breaker, I'm gone. And I always ask God, what is the true spirit of a person? When I first meet that person, in about a day, he will show me that. And usually it's something that I know I can't deal with in the long term, and I'm able to pull back immediately. So tell us about red flags and deal breakers.
Yeah, and definitely red flags, to me red flags are different than deal breakers because some behavior is learned behavior. You've had different experiences, I've had different experiences, so some things that were second nature to me may not be acceptable to you. Some things that are second nature to you might not be acceptable to me, and sometimes you have to learn each other. The red flag is, this doesn't line up with the vision or how I see my life going. So now we communicate those red flags. But now if you're unwilling to talk about and deal with those red flags, now they become deal breakers. You know,
like a trust issue. I saw you on a panel one time, and you were talking about the trust issues, like should a person look at your phone?
Right.
And I think in dating, that's personal, that's private. Why would you want to look at your man's or woman's phone? That is none of their business.
Right.
Now, married, I heard your wife say, okay, yeah, what's yours is hers, and vice versa. So with that trust, you have to really be able to trust that person.
Yeah, and trust is not just about like, my wife has the code to my phone, my email, my Facebook, and everything, but she never looks at it.
Right.
She never looks at it. Trust is not about being able to check on them and doing what they're supposed to do. It's that you believe that they're going to do what they're supposed to do. Now, if I always hide my phone and I have a code on it that you don't know, and it even though you haven't seen anything, it puts a trust barrier up because you're hiding something. I think the more exposed you are and the more transparent you are with your mate, the easier it is for them to trust you. I wouldn't want to date a woman that has a secret life that I know nothing about. I can't come over your house at certain times, or every time I come around you take your phone and you hide it. Okay, when I find out that there's no trust there, it's hard for us to be in a relationship. It's not that I need the code to your phone, but it's the fact that if I wanted it, I should have it. That's what trust is. I mean, because my wife says it all the time. How can you have the passcode to my bank account, but I can't give you the passcode to my phone? Something's wrong with it. You can take as much money out as you want, but you can't look at my phone. And you know, and there's different strokes for different folks. You know, I don't think you should berate somebody and attack them because you don't have the code. But if somebody's always hiding something, that puts a wall up between the trust.
And sometimes they don't know it. If it's a good person who can lie very well, they don't know. If they never look at their boyfriend's phone, they don't know he's hiding anything. And I also believe in really getting fully healed and becoming a whole person before you come to a relationship. I see people who've been abused. The person they were with played on them, and then they go right into another relationship, and then they're mean to the next person because the other person messed up. And that's not the fault of the new person. So I always say get fully healed and ready. It might take a year, but people don't want to be by themselves. It's okay to be by yourself sometimes. You can't be with somebody all the time unless you are married. And I think that single people need to know, get yourself together to be the right one. Work on your attitude. If you don't like spending time with yourself, like I don't like going out to eat, well, a person is not going to want to spend time with you. So talk about that.
Yeah, I agree. In certain pain, I'm convinced after 4 years of counseling, I'm convinced that certain pain doesn't go away. You know, and but it's the responsibility of the partner to make you comfortable with that pain. I played basketball, and I've hurt my ankle before. Every now and then I still feel that pain, and I would limp through it. But it's good to know that people can understand that your limp could show up from time to time. So if you're with a woman that's been through a bad relationship, and you doing certain things kind of reminds her of her past, I think it's worth a conversation. And I think it's the responsibility of the partner to help them feel comfortable. Now, if your attempts to make them feel comfortable, they never get comfortable, well, that's another issue altogether. It might be some damage that's beyond repair right there. But I think if my wife has been through situations where things have caused her not to trust, for instance, going back to use the phone, if she's been through that, you can have the code to my phone. If it makes you feel comfortable, you can have it. You know, when she has it, doesn't ask for it, doesn't look through it, but just the fact that she can't have it makes her more comfortable with it. So, and I think it's the job of the partners, because we all have been damaged through something. And it's the job of the partner to always do their best to make their partner comfortable. If I'm always in my phone when I'm with you, and then you call me when I'm not there and I don't answer the phone, that's going to make you uncomfortable. I at least ought to answer the phone and say, hey baby, I'm busy, let me call you back in 5 minutes. It's not that I'm on a leash, it's not that she controls me, but I want her to feel comfortable that she can trust me. So.
Our last point about men find and women choose. You know, it says in the word that man findeth a wife, findeth a good thing. But women always talk about, oh, I'm going to find this man, I'm looking for this man. But we might have many options. Like you might have suitors. We choose the suitor. So is it okay for a woman to look for a man and all that?
Right. Now, if we're talking biblical, and I think it works better natural too, but I hear women say, oh, I want to be so hidden in God that a man's going to have to go through God to find me.
Right.
Well, that's not what Ruth did.
Right, she really was a little
Ruth
forward.
made herself available. She didn't go look for Boaz, but she was available. So I say if a woman wants to meet a certain type of man, go horseback riding, go deep sea diving, go meet some, go to some places that make yourself available. And even Naomi taught Ruth, okay, baby, you got his attention. Now put this makeup on like this, wear your hair like this, and she made herself available and attractive. So she didn't, always go to the store with a stocking cap on her head and old jogging pants on. She made herself available and attractive, and Boaz found her. So I think it's work on each part. I shouldn't have to fight through all of your imperfections to find you. You can work on some and let me deal with the ones that you can't. You know what I mean?
And even with online dating, a lot of people are against that. But really, even as a woman, you might could put your profile out there, but you don't have to be looking. Men are always looking. They're pursuers. They'll see your profile, then they'll reach out to you. Meaning he would have ever known you were in Mississippi and this person is in New York. He would not have known you existed. But maybe if you just put it out there, then let him do the rest.
I agree.
And I'm a little old-fashioned. I still believe in the man courting the woman.
Absolutely.
And not calling the man at first. Let him do all that. And if he's really interested, you'll know. And then it'll be time for you to receive his pursuit. Now, I want you to tell the viewers 3 surefire ways to be able to find the right one for them, recognize the right person for them. Okay.
Now, one, I would say, because everybody doesn't have pure motives, we get that. It does not matter what the intentions of the man are. It matters what your intentions are. And when you see his intentions not aligning with yours, you have to make a decision before you get emotionally involved. Because when we get emotionally involved, we grade on a curve. We start saying, oh, well, he's not that bad, but he can change. You know.
Change nobody.
And so you have to be strategic with what you can and cannot stand for in the beginning before your emotions take over. Now, number 2, I would say, always be polite and pleasant. You don't have to have an attitude, and he has to fight through your attitude to get to you. Even if you're not interested in a guy, you can smile and say, that's not what I'm interested in. Thank you so much. Because it may not be the guy that you're looking at that's the man for you, but a man across the room who see how you handle that say, oh, yeah, that's the woman for me. So I always say all the time, every day is an interview for your next position in life. So you can always be polite. And the third thing, which I believe is the most important, the Bible says when the enemy comes in like a flood, but the Lord will lift up a standard against them. Have your standard. Just because Nicki Minaj doing what she doing and Beyonce doing what she doing, it doesn't mean that you have to do that to be accepted, because you're going to draw the type of man that you don't want. I don't care if every woman in the room is naked. Be comfortable in your covered up dress. Be that thing that stands out that people have to work for to get, and not something that they can just look at and play with when they feel like it. I'm going to tell you, the best cars are on the showroom floor. They're away from the weather. They're away from all the dirt. They kept in a spot that catches your eye. I would tell women, be that showroom floor model. Don't go outside in the dirt. Stay where you are. Let them come find you and come up to your standards. And so, I don't know about other guys, but when I see a bunch of skin, I'm not thinking matrimony. I'm thinking mattress, but not matrimony.
Right.
So, yeah.
And the Bible in Ephesians 5 says that the man is supposed to bring the wife blameless, without a spot. So even when he's dating her, he should be guiding her into holiness and doing the right thing. Baby, I'm attracted to you and all that. But you know what? Why don't we do this or go here so it won't cause both of you to sin?
Because we will only do what you allow us to do.
That's right. Excellent. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming and just sharing these wonderful pointers with us. And again, what is the address to your church ministry?
1708 Vera Cruz, 38117. But more importantly, even if you don't want to come to church, that's fine. We have plenty of members. I really want you to come out and be a part of the Something She Can Feel play at the Lander Center, May 16th. We have a 3 o'clock showing. We have a 7 o'clock showing. It is phenomenal. It's something that you and your girlfriends or your guys will be talking about. I drop a lot of nuggets. I tell everybody, it's the stage play that the players are going to hate because I give up all the game.
And where do they get the tickets?
They can get the tickets online at www.somethingshecans.com. And so, and it's also starting on the 26th. It's going to be available on 95.7 website and also on 101.1 website. So we're making it available to people. They can just go find it, do a search on Something She Can Feel, and you'll get all the information you need.
Well, thank you, Pastor Munger, and thank you for viewing into Moments on Waiting. I'm Dr. Denita Hedgeman, and I will see you next week.